Hey, I'm Tyler with Adventurous Way Life, and one of the things I've always wanted to do is learn how to fly fish, and it's always seemed kind of intimidating. You see it on the movies, these people whipping the strings back and forth, and it has this aura of complexity to it, in my mind anyway, and apparently that's not the case. Not only is that like all wrong, but it's pretty simple. We learned in an afternoon how to do it, caught a couple of fish, and helping us learn, and he's going to run it through us real quick in just a couple minutes, everything you need to know to learn how to fly fish, if you've never even fly fished or a second before, is Tom Rosenbauer. You are host of the Orvis Podcast, which is largely about fly fishing. You've written books about fly fishing. You're kind of the fly fishing guy at Orvis. And Orvis is a brand that started out all about fly fishing, right?
Exactly.
All right, so first things first, flies. There's 3 different kinds. What are they?
Yeah, there's 3 kind of basic kinds if you're talking about trout fishing. So there's a dry fly.
Okay.
They float and they imitate something on the surface, usually an insect that's floating on the surface. They're a lot of fun because it's visual.
Yeah.
And then you have a nymph, which is an immature insect or a larva under the water. So it sinks, it's a wet fly.
Okay.
And it goes along the bottom of the stream and the trout hopefully pick it up.
Okay.
And then there's a third kind called a streamer, which is bigger and gaudier and is supposed to look like a bait fish or a crayfish or some bigger piece of food that trout eat.
Okay.
So, you know, if you get into saltwater and bass, there's various kinds of streamers, bigger streamers as well. But for trout, that's pretty much it.
Okay, and then I heard some people here calling the dries a terrestrial, which the way it was explained was because it's like a bug that would be on land, hence terrestrial.
Yeah.
Float. Is that just confusing the matter? Or?
No, trout eat aquatic insects. So mayflies, caddisflies, stoneflies that are in a stream, and they live in the stream. And trout eat those. But they also eat grasshoppers and ants and beetles that, you know, on a windy day like this, they fall in the river, and a trout will come up and eat them. So that's a terrestrial, just a form of dry fly.
Okay, cool. And I think what was fun about the dries is if the fish are coming up and picking things off, you can see them really easy.
Yeah.
Whereas with the others, you sort of need a bobber there to indicate when something's bit, right?
A bobber sometimes, or just you feel the line tightening. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a lot more, the visual part is a lot more fun. So
all right.
fly fishing.
So dry, wet, streamer. All right, let's talk about poles and string. The string, something I learned today.
Okay.
So
we call them rods and lines.
Rods and lines.
Poles and string is okay.
All right. So the lines act as the weight, whereas with a traditional fishing pole, you're really flinging it to send the lure out.
Send
or
the
bait.
weight out there.
The weight out
and
there.
The weight pulls the line along. Here, we've got these little flies that don't weigh much, and you can't get them 20, 30 feet away by throwing them. So you have to have a line that has some mass. And so the fly rod casts the line, and then you have a piece of leader on the end, which is basically fishing line, you know, clear stuff. And the leader's on the end, the line goes out, the leader follows the line, and the fly lands on the water.
All right. And so the weight of the line is what's helping propel it out.
Right.
And the way that it's cast is not with this big whipping motion. It's actually the flex of the pole, right?
Yeah, the flex of the rod. Well, even in conventional...
Sorry, the rod.
Yeah, that's right. Even in conventional fishing, the flex of the rod does help to propel that lure out there.
Right.
So in fly fishing, it's no different, but they have to flex in a different manner because they're throwing a kind of a dynamic length of line. They're not throwing a single weight. They're throwing this long piece of string, weighted string, right? So they have to flex in a particular way, and you pick a line based, that's the most important thing. You pick a line size, and then you buy your rod. So the average trout rod is like a 9 feet long and a 5-weight line. So if you remember nothing else and you want to trout fish or fish for panfish, smaller fish, 9-foot, 5-weight, basic rod.
And when you buy that 5-weight line, you want a 5-weight rod, right? Why is that?
Because that rod is going to be optimized to casting that particular weight of line really well.
Okay.
If you put a lighter line on it, you'd have to struggle too much. And if you put a really heavy line on, the rod would have to struggle too much.
Okay.
So it's just an optimum situation. That's
all right. Cool. And let's talk about the motion of it, because again, you see people doing this and on television shows, and you said that's really not what you want to do. And then I know with like Tenkara, I've been taught it's a little bit more of a flick here.
That's a little more of a wrist flick.
With traditional fly fishing, you're showing us it's kind of like all arm, right?
It's more forearm. It's more forearm. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to lift that line up in the air behind you until it straightens. So you bring the rod up and you you accelerate to a dead stop, which drives that line up in the air behind you, nice and flat. And then all you do is take the rod and point it in front of you, and that loop of line will go right out in front of you.
And I was watching you guys, and it's when you watch somebody who's really well experienced, there's no, like, you say accelerate to a stop, but I don't see you guys like, whap, whap. It's really very fluid.
Subtle.
It's subtle.
Yeah, it's subtle. And you smooth that out with time, with practice. That's all. It just takes time. It's just muscle memory, hand-eye coordination, and a little muscle memory. That's all. It's not that hard.
And it is practice, because even just like 10 minutes with somebody really showing you this thing, and it kind of brings me to the next thing.
You were doing great.
Thank you.
10 minutes.
Thank you. I caught 2 fish on my first time ever. It was awesome. So, which brings me to the next thing about the practice. Orvis shops, you got like, what, 70 stores in the U.S.?
Yep. And then another couple hundred independent dealers that sell Orvis tackle.
Okay. So, but at your stores, you guys run clinics every Saturday from like the main summer months, depending on where you are in the U.S., right?
It starts in March and it runs sometimes through July.
Okay. And it's free? It's
free. It's called Fly Fishing 101. So if you go on the Orvis site and search for FF 101 or Fly Fishing 101, you can find a schedule and sign up, and it's free.
Awesome.
2-hour lesson.
And then you get a discount. If you go to the class, you get a discount at the stores, right? All right, so if I walk into an Orvis store, now knowing what I know, I feel like I could at least be intelligent enough to say, okay, like this is maybe where I'm going to go fishing, and they'll guide you to the right purchase. But if I walk in and I just want to get started with the bare minimum, how much am I going to end up spending, and what am I going to get for that?
You're going to end up spending less than $200.
Okay.
You can get a rod, reel, and line in what we call the Encounter outfit, which is our entry-level outfit, our lowest price, for $149, $159. I can't remember which. And then you're going to want a box of flies.
Okay.
You're going to want a bunch of flies. And there's all sorts of stuff you can buy later, right? But if you just want to go out and fish, it's under $200. You don't need waders. You don't need lots of doodads and stuff. You really don't need a lot of stuff.
Right.
You probably need something to cut your line so you don't use your teeth like I do and your dentist yells at you. But it's not expensive. It has a reputation of being expensive, and it can get expensive.
Oh yeah, well, it's like any other sport, right?
Any other outdoor sport, yeah. But it doesn't have to be.
Awesome.
It doesn't have to.
All right, thanks so much for the lessons today.
Thank you, Tyler.
It was awesome. Good time.
It was fun. Congratulations on your first fish.
Thank you.